Hello there, and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. We are in one of our old studios tonight, Brandis, because some work is being done currently on our current studio, and here's what we're looking at tonight.
We are just repeating the same mistake over and over.
Exclusive details on a new plan to move hundreds of asylum seekers into a Chicago location that's already getting pushback from local officials.
A look at what we learned from a week of candidate debates and forums between those running for mayor.
Plus, where the mayoral candidates stand on bringing back the city's Department of Environment. Where it was created, why was it eliminated, and who would bring it back?
From hot rods to electric vehicles, get ready to start dreaming about your next car. A preview of this year's Chicago Auto Show.
Run to the grocery store, make a trip to the hardware store. Buy a new car? Not so fast, not on Sunday.
And the latest in our digital series, WTTW News Explains, tells you why you can't buy a car in Illinois on Sunday. And now to our top story tonight, a WTTW News exclusive. The state of Illinois is hatching a plan to move 658 asylum seekers from locations in the suburbs to a new central location in the city of Chicago. But the plan is already getting pushback from local officials and immigration groups who worry about the conditions awaiting the migrants at the new site. State Human Services officials have put the brakes on this plan for now as they iron out the specifics. This 100,000 square foot former Kmart sits vacant at the corner of Pulaski and 71st Streets on Chicago's southwest side. WTTW News has learned the State Department of Human Services is preparing to move 658 recent migrant arrivals into the site for temporary shelter. Sources tell WTTW News the migrants, mostly asylum seekers, will be relocated from the suburbs, where they are currently staying at hotels. According to documents we obtained, the site was selected because of its nearby resources and that it's a welcoming neighborhood. But some local officials are not yet ready to roll out the welcome mat. In a letter to IDHS Secretary Grace Howe, local state representative Angelica Guerrero Cuellar says she has serious concerns about the plan. Unfortunately, I do not believe the proposed migrant shelter location at 71st Street and Pulaski Road is ready to safely house 658 migrants. Many questions remain about whether the facility is prepared to serve as safe housing for this many people. I believe it is important that we pause the opening of the proposed site as we work to resolve these issues. And 23rd Ward Alderman Silvana Tabarez echoes similar reservations. After being briefed about the state's pending plans to house migrants at the location at 71st and Pulaski, I have major concerns for the safety of the local community and the people who will be housed at this location. Chief among those concerns, is there enough public safety around the area? And will the migrants be housed inhumanely in tents after sleeping in hotel beds? Johannes Favi is Deputy Director of the Interfaith Community for Detained Immigrants. He says he'd rather see families take the migrants into their homes.
It is heartbreaking to see that we have buildings that are empty around the city that could be used. We have great community response, and we're not tapping into the resource that we have, and we are just repeating the same mistake over and over.
This dispute comes on the heels of unease in the Woodlawn neighborhood, where some local residents tried to block the temporary shelter of migrants at the shuttered Wadsworth School. Mayor Lori Lightfoot has said the city is already at capacity to house migrants. IDHS had originally planned to move the migrants here today, but they delayed that timeline in response to lawmakers' concerns. It's unclear now when the move-in date will happen, if it happens at all. Favi says the migrants have undergone harrowing journeys and are still struggling with the uncertainty of their current situations.
You will find people that are grateful for having somewhere to stay, and then you will also find people that are completely depressed and on the brink of giving up.
And the Illinois Department of Human Services did not answer calls and messages seeking comment about the plan.
Paris, in a related story, in Woodlawn, 3 people were arrested today outside that former Wadsworth Elementary School, where the city is sheltering about 100 immigrants. The group of protesters, which included at least 2 candidates for aldermen in different wards, started with a news conference where they argue the city, county, and state government leaders are out of their jurisdiction by designating the state and city as sanctuary places. They also object to the city providing shelter and care for immigrants, but not for people who are homeless or re-entering the community from prison.
please get this right. If we are a welcoming city, then we need to do this the right way for all communities. And so I took it upon myself to reach out to a community, Little Village Council, that have said numerous times that they have all the tools that they need in order to take in immigrants.
A 16-year-old boy is facing murder charges for the deaths of 2 other teens shot and killed near Benito Juarez High School in late December. The shooting on December 16th killed 2 teens, 14 and 15 years old at the time, and injured 2 others. The suspect is also facing 9 other felony counts related to the shooting incident that happened in Pilsen. Police say the offender also was in possession of a stolen vehicle at the time. Superintendent David Brown says the shooting at this point appears to have been random.
We currently don't have a clear motive for why a 16-year-old would want to shoot and kill other kids. And it's unconscionable, if you can imagine, trying to find some reasoning behind it. It's senseless. There's no good reason.
The Cook County Assessor's Office quickly closes an investigation it had opened into tax exemptions received by mayoral candidate Paul Vallis and his wife. The Cook County Assessor's Office opened a probe into whether the trust that owns the Vallis property in Palos Heights also owned a home in Monee, Illinois, 40 miles from Chicago in Will County, after investigators determined there was evidence that the same trust owned both properties. Lawyers for the Vallis family provided documents to the assessor's office on Friday that proved Paul and Sharon Vallis do not own the Monee property and that the properties are owned by separate trusts, according to the statement from the assessor's office. Vallis faces questions about his residency after WTTW News reported last night about homestead exemptions the Vallises take on their property in Palos Heights. You can read that full story online. And coming up in the program, electric vehicles taking the spotlight at this year's auto show.
But first, after a week of mayoral forums, a review of what we did and did not learn about the candidates for mayor. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
It's been a debate a day over the last week, and the candidates have come away battered and bruised. So have some of the moderators. But have Chicagoans gotten any clearer picture of who they want to vote for on February 28th, and have any candidates lurched ahead of the pack? Joining us once again is Jason DeSanto, a political speechwriter and debate strategist for members of Congress and multiple presidential campaigns. He is a senior lecturer at both Northwestern University's School of Law and School of Communication. Jason, long time no see. Although maybe after some of those debates, it feels like a long time.
It's never too soon to come back here to talk to you, Paris.
Well, we appreciate you coming back, especially under these circumstances tonight in this makeshift studio. So tell us your general impressions from what you saw this week.
What I saw this week were 3 different either televised or radio forums in which I think the preview said it quite right. The candidates were going at each other a little bit more, and basically we have no major change in the race right now, except for candidates starting to attack Paul Vallis a little bit more. I think that reflects his status right now, moving into, if not a front-runner status, probably in the top 2 right now.
And that was going to be my question for you. I mean, do you think anything this week moved the needle for anybody?
I think for Vallis, we've got some things, what we would say is getting in position to get in position for other people to start lodging some attacks that are a little bit more powerful. This was the first week of all of the weeks that we've seen debates where I saw somebody get under his skin a little bit in one of the debates. It was actually the WBEZ debate, which was in the middle of the week. And Chuy Garcia made a comment about a school in Little Village and credited Arnie Duncan with having gotten that school open, not Paul Vallis, while Paul Vallis has claimed that he was the one who got that school open. That's Chuy Garcia's area, that's his neighborhood. And Vallis bristled a little bit at that.
And this is an obscure issue from 20-some years ago.
It seems to be, but here's the point. He's going to face more of that in the forums that are left, in public appearances as we go through the next couple of weeks. And so one of the questions I'm going to have in watching him is, what kind of demeanor does he show in handling those kinds of attacks? Because one of the knocks on him in the past is he doesn't wear very well. So I think as we see more and hear more attacks against him, we're going to see how he wears that mantle that he has right now.
Okay, we'll be looking to see how he handles that. And here's what Paul Vallis, Willie Wilson, and the mayor had to say about crime at our forum on Tuesday.
Clearly, there's this perception, or maybe it's reality, that downtown is unsafe. And if you talk to everyone, and I've talked to all the business groups there, public safety is the #1 issue.
If you commit a crime, you hurt somebody, you kill somebody, they should be hunted down like a rabbit. That's what I said. That's what I meant.
Absolutely outrageous. Because what he's saying is that because you have the pain of loss of a victim of gun violence, as unfortunately way too many people in the city have, that we should turn our police department into a group of vigilantes to hunt down and kill people.
Jason, it's no secret that crime is the mayor's Achilles heel right now. Does she have an effective counter message on that?
One of the problems that she's had in this race is twofold. One, on the crime issue, I think she's had a lot of data, a lot of defensiveness, not much of a message. She's not really meeting the emotional moment of where people feel like they are on the crime issue. She will say people don't feel safe and they need to feel safe, but we're not really getting a sense, I think, from the tenor of those answers, the way she's answering them, that she understands really the depth of the problem. Mostly she's launching into a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics, a lot of things that she's done. And for lack of a better term, and somewhat against interest, given my background, I think she's over-lawyering some of these answers. She's giving what are factual answers, logical answers, but not really putting them in a framework of understanding where people are right now emotionally about crime.
I get the sense that if you were advising her, you'd say you need to take that Bill Clinton, I feel your pain approach.
Well, a little bit of that, and a little bit more of actually what she did in that answer you just showed, where she was able to use Willie Wilson and his answer at kind of painting him as too far to the right. She could do a lot more of that with Vallis, while at the same time painting Brandon Johnson and Chuy Garcia as too far to the left. And I think what she's done a little bit too little in this race is give people who are watching a sense of the alternatives and to put herself in the sensible middle. And that has not really come through. Instead, what we've gotten are a lot of answers with details, a little bit of defensiveness. Even in the Fox debate last night, she was talking about car thefts, and she gave a relatively good answer on car thefts, but then at the end ended up blaming part of it on Kia and on Hyundai for allowing their cars to be carjacked with a thumb drive. That just sounds a little bit like excuse making. It may be true, but unless we think that you're really taking responsibility and you understand where people are emotionally, it's not really going to redound with people in the way you want.
It does certainly seem like there's a spot in this race for someone in the middle, left of center, right of center, given some of the more extremes from some of the candidates, relative extremes. The mayor also went after some of the moderators this week, including a familiar face. Take a look.
A lot of your questions are laden with premises that are just belied by the facts. You're describing them as if they're dumb, lazy, and not doing anything.
That's absolutely false.
That is the
question,
premise.
actually, Madam Mayor, the question was about the 45% of kids who are chronically absent.
Here's what I know.
Why are they not in class?
Here's what I know, Mike. The reality, and I invite you to come with me sometime to an elementary school or high school.
So, Jason, when you're coaching candidates getting ready for forums and debates, do you tell them, yeah, go after the moderators and tell them their questions are no good?
I tell them that I admire their tenacity, as I admire the mayor's tenacity, but all in good measure and all to a larger message. If the message overall was, I'm fighting on behalf of the people of Chicago, I realize that we still have a long way to go, I understand where people are, and the other people on this stage are offering you solutions that are either going to be too weak or are going to result in police brutality, that would position her in a different way, where even giving that kind of a response that she just gave would seem more sensible. But when one of the knocks against you is that you tend to be combative, and then you are combative in the debate, even though she's going for an emotional moment there, she's defending students, that plays into a negative narrative for her, and I think that's just not, it's just not a positive place for her to be. I think there are better places for her to be.
Interestingly, someone on the Weekend Review earlier tonight said that the combativeness worked when she was a non-incumbent, and now that she's an incumbent, it doesn't wear quite as well.
Well, one of the problems with being an incumbent is you wear the jacket. And being mayor is an incredibly difficult job. I admire anybody who gets into the fray to be the mayor. I admire the mayor's commitment and her tenacity, but you own everything when you're the mayor. And when that's true, and now you're being more combative or you're fighting moderators, you don't seem like somebody who's really able to work with other people. And you're giving other people on that stage a free pass. And that is not something she can afford to do right now when she's trying to add a number here and a number there to get into that runoff. None of them can, really.
Jason DeSanto, I can't believe we're already out of time, but thank you so much for coming here late on a Friday evening. We appreciate seeing you as always.
Great to see you, Paris. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you bet. And up next, in conversations recorded a bit earlier, what candidates for Chicago mayors say about creating a Department of Environment for the city, plus what to expect at this year's auto show.
Eight candidates for mayor and just 1 hour. That left plenty of questions we couldn't get to during our mayoral forum on Tuesday. One in particular, the candidates' plans for addressing environmental issues, including whether they'd revive the city's Department of Environment. WTTW News reporter Patty Wettley did ask the candidates about this issue after our forum. She joins us now with more. Patty, first, remind us of the history of the Department of Environment, why it was disbanded, and why proponents want it back.
Right, so it was the second Mayor Daley, the junior, who created the Department of Environment. Then it was Mayor Rahm Emanuel in 2011 who disbanded it. His reasoning at the time was that it would be cost-saving to move the people in the Department of Environment around into other departments, and that way you would infuse environmental concerns into every department. That was the reasoning at the time. You know, people who want to bring the department back say what it really did was it left no single entity laser focused on the environment. You lost a lot of staff, you lost a lot of expertise, and people don't know who to go to for environmental issues when it's all over the place.
So you were able to ask the candidates after our mayoral forum earlier this week about whether they would bring that department back. What did they say?
They all said yes, which is what Mayor Lori Lightfoot said when she was running. And instead she created, a chief sustainability officer, and now she has an office of climate and equity, not the same as the Department of Environment. So yes, people can say they will bring it back, but whether they will be able to accomplish that, fully fund and fully staff it, we will have to wait and see if that actually shakes out.
And Patty, what is the difference, though, between having, a department versus an Office of Climate and Environmental Equity that we currently have?
I mean, it's staff, it's power, it's budget. If you look at this Office of Climate and Equity, less than $1 million budget. You look at some of the city's larger departments like Planning and Development or Streets and Sand, hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you look at how important the environment, climate change, all of those issues, whether it's, lead lines, our, urban street canopy, lakefront erosion, all of these really important topics, should they be bubbled up to the level of having a commissioner with a seat at the main table.
And the same
Not saying that the Office of, Climate and Equity doesn't have a seat at the table, but it speaks to
the
priorities
that they have
and the
is
authority.
Different. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think are going to be the major barriers in the city ultimately being able to have a Department of the Environment in about 30 seconds?
I mean, it depends on who our next mayor is, what city council is like, and where you're going to find the money to fund this department. If you recreate it, you want to put dollars behind it. Where's that money going to come from? And are they going to back it up?
Like
their promises up.
Yep.
Yes.
Like they say, show me your budget and
show me the
your
money.
priorities.
Yes, exactly.
Patty Wettley, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brandis.
And you can read Patty's full story on our website. That's WTTW.com/news. Up next, what to expect at this year's auto show. But first, a look at the weather. Start your engines. The Chicago Auto Show is revving up to open its doors to the public for the 115th year. It is the largest auto exposition in North America, and this year there's a big focus on electric vehicles and letting drivers get behind the wheel. Joining us from the Chicago Auto Show at McCormick Place for more on what to expect is Dave Sloan, co-general manager of the Chicago Auto Show. Dave, congrats on opening another year. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So 115 years, what's new this year?
So we've got 7 indoor test tracks, and you mentioned EVs are a big focus. So we have a 100,000 square foot electric vehicle track with 5 different brands on it that we are executing. And then there are a couple other brands, Ford and Hyundai, that have their own EV tracks inside their displays. So plenty of chances for attendees to experience electric vehicles, many for the first time.
Should be a lot of fun because obviously electric vehicles, many folks don't know, they handle a little bit differently from the gas-powered ones we're so used to. What can folks expect?
Well, you know, it's funny. People think that they really are different. One thing that with electric vehicles, they think, oh my gosh, these things are so much quicker than I thought they'd be. I mean, they're really fast off the line. But also that they do feel normal. That's what I see and hear from people. Oh my gosh, this feels normal. This could work for me. So those are really the first 2 reactions people have.
Is there an electric vehicle that's getting the most buzz? Any concepts that we might see this year?
There are a lot of great concept vehicles. There's one, and the concept vehicles are far off, especially a few of these. There's the Buick Wildcat that's only going to be here this first weekend. So if you want to see this cool car, you got to be here this weekend. And then there's the Dodge Charger Daytona EV, which is really a far out vehicle. And I believe that's the one that they programmed to sound like a internal combustion engine Charger when you hit the accelerator. So kind of cool.
Dave, it seems like every year electric vehicles get to be more and more prominent at the auto show. What's sort of the future of the electric vehicle? How much are we going to see these?
Well, we're going to see. I mean, like I said, it's important for people, it's important for the automakers to get customers into them. And that's why we have so many of these indoor test tracks on the show floor. It really is about experience, and the show has become so much more experiential than it used to be. But it's interesting. The market share is growing for electric vehicles, but how willing are Americans to give up their internal combustion engine cars and drive EVs? They're hot. They're definitely hot. There's waiting lists for some right now. So we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Of course, folks will see if they make it down to the Chicago Auto Show. Sounds like a lot of fun. Dave Sloan, co-general manager there at McCormick Place. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And the Chicago Auto Show runs tomorrow through February 20th. Now to Paris and some more about the state of Illinois and cars. Paris?
Brandis, electric vehicles may be all the rage at the auto shows you just saw, but if you want to buy a car of any kind, the state of Illinois has put you up a little bit of a roadblock in front of you, actually. Our Nick Blumberg has that story in our latest edition of WTTW News Explains.
Ah, the weekend. The perfect time to knock a few items off the old to-do list. Run to the grocery store, make a trip to the hardware store. Buy a new car? Not so fast. Not on Sunday. Since the 1980s, it's been illegal for car dealerships to operate on Sundays in Illinois. Why? Well, some owners and employees wanted to shut down to spend time with their families or for religious reasons. But, and pay attention, this is the key. They didn't want their competitors to be open and have a chance to steal business. The first attempts to close down dealerships on Sundays date back to the 50s and 60s, but those laws never made it off the lot. They were vetoed or struck down in the courts. But since 1984, Illinois car dealers must close their doors on Sundays. Illinois isn't alone. A dozen other states don't allow Sunday car sales either. It's a vestige of so-called blue laws barring certain activities on the basis of religion, like, say, buying a sports car on the Sabbath. The religious angle is one reason Illinois' ban has been challenged multiple times. One alternate proposal still restricted car sales to 6 days a week, but allowed dealerships to pick which day they take off, since, for example, Jews and Muslims don't observe a day of rest and prayer on Sundays. Some pro-business groups argue the law restricts free commerce, but so far, Illinois has kept the Sunday car sale ban on the books and would-be test drives off the roads. So if you're looking for a hot deal on a new set of wheels, you'll have to look on another day. And you can watch more in our WTTW News Explained series on our website.
And that's our show for this Friday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And join us tomorrow night at 6 for Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. Homeowners in Pilsen demand relief following major property tax hikes.
And then at 6:30 tomorrow on Chicago Tonight Black Voices, South Shore tenants who say they went a month without heat. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe and have a wonderful weekend.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a proud sponsor of diversity, equity, and inclusion-focused free continuing legal education for lawyers throughout the region.